because almost all the literature from the global development finance, we are seeing that, well financially trained women, or let's say economically empowered women, is phenomenal for the household, the children, and society as a whole.
Yeah.
So women's becoming financially literate and empowered is not just limited to well-being for the woman. It really is transforming your society, right?
Numbers, they tell a story. Policies shape destinies. And the right economic decisions can transform a nation. But how do we decode these complex forces of economy the way it has never been done? No boring charts, no mind-numbing jargons, just raw insights, bold perspectives, and a lot of fun. Today, we have with us someone who not only understands the pulse of India's economy, but has been shaping its policies at the highest level. A brilliant economist, a policy architect, and a thought leader, Dr. Shamika Ravi. Welcome, ma'am, on the podcast of Indore Management Association. Thank you so much. They say economics is a science of scarcity, but is the leadership art of abundance?
Not at all. In fact, leadership is extremely important in determining the destiny of nations.
Absolutely.
And we have cases within the country, and I think that is the beauty of India, that if you're trying to test any of these hypotheses, you have divergent fates of different states, which you can attribute to leadership. So, of course, every state at the end of the day is strapped for resource. No one has abundance. You have to generate abundance and use that resource in what is going to fuel future growth, but at the same time also take care of your basic development needs.
Absolutely, absolutely. From boardrooms to classrooms, I mean, you have been shaping minds and policies. So what's the one economic principle you wish every leader should know?
I think leaders by definition are people who are not driven by the past trends. Because if you were only to follow past trends, which is unfortunately what most consultants will tell you, or I think unfortunately also many advisors will tell you, is that if you look at past data, you project future.
Absolutely.
I think the whole idea of leadership is to break that past and take you to a better and a higher and a more stable equilibrium.
Yeah. Do you think that economic growth and social equity, they truly go hand in hand, or is it like trying to mix oil and water?
They definitely go hand in hand. Because remember, in a democracy, if they do not go hand in hand, then it's not a stable outcome. You will be voted out of power, right? There is a reason why in India we have managed to improve all metrics of sustainable development goals in the last 10, 15 years. It is on account of high economic growth.
Yeah.
And the way it is being spent. So India finally has absolute poverty below 3%. And of course, if you ask all the elders around, as well as us, we are children of 70s and we grew up listening to Garibi Hatao. And finally, the country has managed to overcome, and it's a momentous feat. And why do you think that is? Because we've grown, we have the resources, and the nature of that growth is such that it is equitable, right? But you have to look beyond poverty, which is just consumption and how much people spend. If you look at health outcomes, India has actually achieved many of the health sustainable development goals in most of our states. So infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, they're not all India problems anymore. They're really focused on a handful of 6 or 7 states.
Yeah.
A lot of this is possible only on the back of the fact that we have the resource now. And I think we have better targeting. So a lot of our policies are being better implemented. And I think it's on account of one leadership. Think of Swachh Bharat. I mean, it's not like you needed somebody to come and tell you, clean yourself.
Clean yourself, yeah, yeah.
Or use toilets if they're there. Open defecation was a problem. But the building of 120 million toilets has transformed rural economies and lives of young women and children. So I think leadership matters, but resource, you can't do without money.
Yeah.
So economic growth is what has fueled a lot of our development targets.
So amidst all such big promises, what's one economic myth you really like to immediately bust now?
There are several. I think when it comes to India, there are several myths, and I will talk to some extent even in the convention on this, is that, economic growth is an arithmetic inevitability, meaning even if you didn't do anything, this country will grow.
Yeah.
That's not true at all. It is deliberate policy making, it is deliberate budgeting,
Yeah.
it is precise and well implemented policies which eventually lead to growth which is equitable. So it's a myth, and I've heard too many people say that yes, currently India still remains relatively low income, of course, but at this level of income, of course, you're going to see high growth. No, you're not going to see high growth. That is definitely a myth.
Aja, we hear a lot about equality, and you have worked extensively on gender equality. So what's the one economic shift that can truly empower women in India? Because I would really love to hear from you about the women in India. And if you could give one financial literacy tip to every young woman out there, then what would it be?
On women, I think we have to have some of the more difficult conversations in our society, because women are getting more educated than ever.
Yes.
45% of our STEM graduates are women. And yet, when it comes to working, there are constraints. And I don't think the constraints are because the jobs aren't available. In fact, if you look at the last PLFS over the last 8 years, India's female labor force participation has risen by 67%, which is an insane number. But it is happening in the rural areas primarily and certain states. The problem is that the society is at odds with this, because your society is nuclearizing very fast. You're urbanizing very fast. You want children, but that entire responsibility of rearing and bearing children is on the shoulders of women. Entire care is on the shoulders of women, with minimal family support, because families are nuclearizing.
Absolutely.
With very little administrative or institutional support.
Yeah.
So all this education and training that this girl is getting,
Yes.
eventually is not going to be able to get a value in the market. And there is an inherent frustration there, right? Therefore, there is now an attempt, and we are trying, and definitely it is one of my main endeavors, to push care infrastructure in India. We have to build easily available, locally available, closely and affordable care infrastructure. Of course, children are a very large part of that. But we also have 150 million people above the age of 60. Elderly care, which is also on the shoulders of women, right? So we have to provide, and we have to invest in this infrastructure.
Okay, so it's all about the infrastructure that you are saying about. But what financial tip I'm looking for, what a woman should do on a personal front, on a personal level. I mean, when it comes to the grassroots, when it comes to the grass level, then how should women be financially independent? I'm just looking for one tip now.
Before I answer that question, care infrastructure is not just hard infrastructure. The idea is also that the nature of the society has to change. In families, the men will have to support, right? Because otherwise what you are seeing is a very rapidly crashing fertility. Urban women are having fewer and fewer children. In fact, urban India has had less than replacement rate for the last 30 years. So population is shrinking in urban affluent parts of the country. And of course, it is because it's very costly for the women, which means others have to share the burden. So it is no longer just infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure is something the government can do and support, and the markets can help. But fundamentally, the change must happen in the household. Men will have to shoulder more responsibility.
Absolutely.
That's a societal change, yes?
So it's bad for a man rather than a woman.
It is, yes. I think we have to definitely, and I think it's already happening.
Yeah.
But if we are not cognizant and we don't do it in a way where, it is properly done,
Yes.
you are going to see certain level of violence. You are seeing cases, you're seeing all kinds of tensions. I think we have to be prepared. And this is where men have to adapt, right? But going back to your question of financial literacy.
Yeah.
I really think women have to, right from young age, become part of financial decision making in the household. Traditionally in India, as in most traditional societies, women are kept out of a lot of financial decision making.
So participation in the financial decision making at home, right? Starting from the
very early on, right? Because almost all the literature from the global development finance, we are seeing that, well financially trained women, or let's say economically empowered women, is phenomenal for the household, the children, and society as a whole.
Yeah.
So women's becoming financially literate and empowered is not just limited to well-being for the woman. It really is transforming your society, right? And that, to some extent, of course, we put financial management, cash flow management, nothing terribly highfalutin, right? This has to be cash flow management, just managing
Simple daily routine. Yeah.
but it must start in the household because it's about responsibility.
There are women out there who do not still participate in the financial
And I think they must be, because the best educators are, first of all, your family, and second is real world. I thought real money.
Oh, wow. So my podcast is really going insightful and I can just extract a lot from her. But now I'm just turning this podcast to a very light-hearted and rapid fire, in which it could be witty, and I would again try to extract maximum from you with my witty questions. So let's have a rapid fire. Leadership or luck? What plays a bigger role, man, in success?
Both.
It's the luck and leadership both.
Both. It's a toss-up of a coin. I mean, you need a lot of luck for right elements to come together.
Yes.
Right? And my stars aligning are very important. But leadership, I think traditionally we discount it. And I also say this because we are in a management association. Traditionally, we don't do a good job of teaching leadership. So leadership is very important. I think
a money mistake even smart people even make.
A mistake that smart people make? I think smart people particularly make this problem because they think they are the reason the outcomes are what they are and not because of element of luck. So I think smart people
are themselves a problem.
Often, well, they're driving smart things and they're good for the society.
That's one.
But I often believe they are driving, and I think that's where luck is important.
If cash, crypto, UPI, stock market get into a wrestling match, who do you think win? I think I'm able to extract the maximum from you with this question.
In India, cash is always king.
Okay.
And I'm glad for it. We have to understand cash is not a bad word. As economies progress, liquidity moves a lot of things. But of course, India is perhaps the only country where such small ticket transactions are happening digitally by people who have never really carried out formal transactions in the remotest part of the country. So remember when previous finance ministers would laugh and say, what do you think, rural women will do digital transactions? Yes.
Yes.
You see, that is the potential of Indian economy and people.
Yeah.
Right? The adoption of technology, particularly payment, is unprecedented.
Yeah, absolutely. What's riskier? Investing in the stock market or predict the Indian monsoon?
What is riskier? And you're asking an economist. And they often say economists make weathermen look better. We've been lucky with both. We've been lucky with the equity markets, and we've also been lucky with the monsoons lately. So as an economist, advising the Prime Minister and very, very concerned about it, I will go half and half. I think they're both very important.
So if you have a magic wand, what one economic problem you would want immediately to be solved? A magic wand and one economic problem.
I would get my 10% growth rate back.
Okay. So it's tea, coffee, or a good financial debate?
Coffee. I'm sorry, I like coffee too much. And as a professional economist, I have the debates all the time. Good coffee is relatively rare.
And my last question to the rapid fire. What's one thing you value more than money?
Oh, family. Without any doubt.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Shamika Ravi. It was a wonderful podcast. I think I'm not short of words. I'm really short of words how to express my gratitude to you on my being here at the Indore Management Association's podcast. And to my all viewers, do watch this podcast, subscribe, and it's a wonderful you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.